NASA had more than 3 years between Artemis 1 and Artemis 2 to prepare. Yet the Space Launch System is still running into one problem after another. And now NASA is making an even bigger claim. They say that after these early missions, the gap between future moon flights could drop to just 10 months. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. But most people simply don't believe it. Because if SLS is still struggling today, how could NASA possibly sustain that pace unless they already have a different vehicle that could step in if SLS runs into trouble? And in this context, one vehicle suddenly comes into focus. Not Starship, not Falcon Heavy. The only real candidate might be New Glenn. So, why would Blue Origin's massive rocket make sense as a backup option for NASA? Let's find out in today's episode of Alpha Tech. NASA's Space Launch System, or SLS, has long been known for two things: an extremely slow production pace and an eye-watering price tag. The rocket is built to support the Artemis program, NASA's series of missions aimed at returning humans to the moon. The program was first announced back in 2017, and nearly 9 years have passed since then. Yet during that entire period, NASA has managed to produce only 2 SLS rockets. One of them launched during Artemis 1 in 2021. The second is currently being prepared for Artemis 2, which NASA says is targeting a launch in April. That means the current production pace works out to a little over 2 years per rocket. And the cost is just as staggering. Estimates suggest it takes around $2.5 billion to build a single SLS. But after just one launch, all that effort from the engineers, along with that enormous investment, is simply gone. The rocket isn't reusable. Contractors have likely already started developing components for the next SLS vehicle, but it's still unclear whether the production speed can actually improve. Recently, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman announced a plan to accelerate the Artemis program. The proposal would cancel development of the SLS Block 1B focus, instead on ramping up production of the Block 1 version and use that configuration for all missions after Artemis 3. The big question is whether that change can truly make a difference. Could it cut production time in half, or even by 2/3? For now, no one really knows. Unless NASA already has a backup plan, one that could both shorten the gap between missions to about 10 months and reduce the overall cost. And that would mean replacing SLS with an existing rocket. And if that sounds unrealistic, there is one important fact to remember. Back in 2014, Orion was successfully launched on a Delta IV Heavy during the uncrewed EFT-1 test flight. That mission proved something important. Orion can fly on rockets other than SLS. So, the key question becomes simple. How many rockets today can actually do the job of SLS? Because SLS has one main task. It has to push Orion out of Earth's gravity and place it on a translunar trajectory toward the moon. That requires a very powerful heavy lift configuration with a payload capacity of more than 27 tons. More importantly, the rocket has to be human-rated because it needs to launch the entire Orion stack, including the European Service Module and the Launch Abort system. Altogether, that system weighs more than 30 tons. And that's why Falcon Heavy from SpaceX ends up just missing the mark. Even though it can send about 26 tons toward the moon in expendable mode, it still lacks full human rating and comes up slightly short on performance. So, it's not the right vehicle for the job. Next is Super Heavy, the most powerful rocket booster ever built. In terms of raw power, there's really no debate. The current version 3 configuration, powered by 33 Raptor 3 engines, produces close to 10,000 tons of thrust. But the system is designed to work with Starship, especially variants like Starship HLS or the Starship Tanker. In other words, it's built around the Starship architecture, not the Orion stack, so it simply isn't compatible with launching Orion, which leaves us with only one realistic candidate right now: New Glenn. This rocket comes from one of SpaceX's biggest competitors, Blue Origin. It was originally developed to compete with Starship. Of course, in terms of raw capability, it is still far behind Starship. But the interesting part is why it might actually fit this role surprisingly well. First, New Glenn has already completed its first 2 test flights successfully. The maiden flight took place in January 2025, followed by NG-2 in November 2025, which also achieved the program's first successful booster landing. Those early milestones suggest the vehicle is moving toward a solid level of reliability. There is another important advantage. New Glenn was designed from the beginning to launch Blue Moon Blue Origin's lunar lander that is being developed for the Artemis program. That system is intended to support human missions to the moon, so achieving human rating certification for the rocket is considered realistic and it could potentially happen relatively soon. However, the current configuration does have a limitation. Its payload capability to translunar injection, or TLI, is only about 7 tons. That is nowhere near enough to send a fully integrated Orion spacecraft toward the moon in a single launch. But Blue Origin has already anticipated this issue. Last year in November 2025, the company officially revealed an upgraded version called New Glenn 9x4, a much more powerful Super Heavy class configuration. The booster would use 9 BE-4 engines, increasing total thrust from about 9 million to 4.5 million pounds. The upper stage would be upgraded to 4 BE-3U engines, raising thrust from 320,000 to about 400,000 pounds. The rocket would also use subcooled propellants, a larger 8.7-meter payload fairing, and an overall design optimized for lunar and deep space missions. According to Blue Origin, this configuration could deliver more than 20 tons to TLI in reusable mode. And if the rocket flies in expendable mode, meaning the booster is not recovered and maximum payload is prioritized, the capability could increase significantly. Estimates suggest it might reach around 27 tons to TLI, which would finally provide enough margin to send Orion toward the moon, using a single launch architecture similar to SLS, without requiring complex in-orbit refueling. The cost difference is just as striking. While a single SLS is estimated to cost around $2.5 billion, a New Glenn rocket is believed to cost somewhere between $150 and $200 million to manufacture. That makes it roughly 12 to 14 times cheaper. So if SLS were to run into serious trouble as an Artemis launch approaches, New Glenn could suddenly emerge as a very compelling replacement candidate. But of course, none of this would be easy. The first challenge would be the payload adapter. Engineers would need to design and build a new adapter, something similar to the Orion stage adapter, to connect the Orion spacecraft to the upper stage of New Glenn, which in the 9x4 configuration uses a large 8.7-meter fairing. Orion itself has a base diameter of about 5 meters, but the full stack, including the launch abort system and the European service module, requires a much larger fairing. This adapter would have to handle a completely different dynamic environment compared with SLS. That includes structural loads, vibration levels, and the intense acoustic environment produced by BE-4 engines and their thrust vectoring. It would also need to provide electrical power and data interfaces between Orion's avionics and New Glenn's guidance system. Developing something like this would require CFD analysis, wind tunnel testing, vibration testing, and eventually full human rating certification. If engineers started from scratch, the process could easily take 1 to 2 years. Lockheed Martin, the manufacturer of Orion, has previously said that launching Orion on another rocket would involve nothing extremely difficult, but it would still require modifications to both the avionics systems and the adapter structure. The second challenge is infrastructure. Artemis missions are currently designed to launch from Launch Complex 39B at Kennedy Space Center. That pad was heavily upgraded specifically for SLS, including the mobile launcher, the flame trench hydrogen infrastructure, the crew access arm, and the entire stacking process inside the vehicle assembly building. New Glenn, on the other hand, is built integrated and launched from Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, located roughly 9 to 14 miles away. The pad there was designed around methane and liquid oxygen operations as well as booster recovery. Moving Orion, or even the full Orion stack, to LC-36 would create major logistical challenges. Transportation could require a crawler or a barge. The launch tower at LC-36 is also not optimized for crewed Orion operations. It lacks systems like a white room dedicated facilities for loading hypergolic propellants used by the ESM and LAS, and emergency egress systems for astronauts. Because of that, large modifications to the ground systems would be required if New Glenn were to support Orion launches. Using Pad 39B for New Glenn would also be difficult, since Artemis infrastructure there is heavily optimized for SLS, and NASA intends to preserve that configuration. There is another complication as well. If an Artemis mission required New Glenn to launch Orion toward TLY or NRHO, while also launching Blue Moon, Blue Origin's lunar lander, the mission could require at least 2 New Glenn launches within a short time window to allow rendezvous near the Moon. Right now, Blue Origin operates only one primary launch pad at LC-36, where integration and refurbishment are performed on site. The launch cadence is expected to increase gradually after 2026, following additional successful flights. But the current system is not designed for rapid multi-launch campaigns. Booster refurbishment, propellant loading, and range scheduling at Cape Canaveral could all introduce delays. That would complicate mission timing, increase operational risk, and likely require additional launch pads or parallel operations. Blue Origin is scaling up production, but for now, there is still no second pad ready to support an Artemis-level launch cadence. In general, the idea is technically possible, but even if it were adopted, it would still take time to implement. It's not clear whether this is connected to broader changes inside the Artemis program, but there has also been a notable shift in plans for the International Space Station. Recently, the U.S. Senate Commerce Committee approved the NASA Authorization Act of 2026, a bill that proposes extending the life of the ISS by 2 more years, from the end of 2030 to September 30th, 2032. This is not NASA's final decision yet. It is guidance from Congress, led by Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell, aimed at avoiding a potential gap in low Earth orbit operations during the transition to commercial space stations. NASA is still negotiating with international partners, including Russia, Japan, and Europe, because the ISS is not owned by the United States alone. Any extension would require agreement from all participating agencies. Because of that, projects related to future space stations are getting a lot of attention right now. One example is VAST. The company recently raised $500 million in new funding to accelerate development of its Haven 2 station. Their current plan is to launch the first module around 2028, with the full station targeted for completion by 2032. Before that, Haven 1 will serve as a Pathfinder mission expected to launch sometime between 2026 and 2027 on a Falcon 9. And NASA has already selected VAST for its 6th private astronaut mission to the ISS, currently planned for sometime after 2027 using a spacecraft from SpaceX.